Some stories aren't told by people. They're whispered by rivers, carried by the wind, and hidden in the silence of the desert. Tonight, I'll share one of them. Listen carefully. The desert was silent. Only the Nile moved, glimmering under the moon, as if the stars themselves had melted into the river's skin. Its surface shimmered, silver and black, whispering secrets in a language too old for men to understand. The villagers along its banks were asleep, but the river never rested. It watched, it listened, and sometimes it spoke. Amara had always heard the Nile in ways others could not. Since childhood, she felt a strange pull whenever she walked by its waters at night. Her father would laugh and say, "The river is only water, my child. It feeds our fields, nothing more." But Amara knew better. She had heard its hum low, deep, like a heartbeat beneath the current dot. Tonight, the hum was louder. She sat alone on a wooden boat, tied loosely to the shore. The pyramids loomed far in the distance, their black silhouettes cutting sharp lines into the starlit sky. The air was cool, but her skin tingled with unease. It was as though the river was calling her, whispering her name beneath the ripples. Amara. She froze. The sound was soft, almost like the rustle of reeds. Yet it was clear, too clear. Her breath caught in her throat. "It's only the wind," she whispered to herself, hugging her knees. But in her heart, she wasn't convinced. The boat rocked gently, swayed by the current, and the water brushed against the wood with a slow, rhythmic knock like fingers tapping from below. The sound repeated, steady, patient, insistent. Amara leaned over the edge of the boat, peering into the dark waters. The moonlight shimmered across the surface, but beneath, there was only blackness, bottomless and waiting. Her pulse quickened. Suddenly, she felt something shift in the air around her. The night grew colder. The reeds along the bank swayed without wind. Even the desert seemed to hold its breath, and then ripples spread across the water, slow and deliberate, though no stone had been thrown. No fish had broken the surface. From the center of the river, a glow began to rise. Dim at first, like a lantern under deep water, but it grew stronger, brighter, closer. Amara's eyes widened as the glow climbed toward the surface, painting the water with shimmering gold. The humming grew louder, deep and resonant, vibrating through the wooden boat, through her chest, through her bones, and then she saw Ita's hand, pale, shimmering, and not human. It broke through the water's skin, dripping with liquid light, as if the Nile itself had formed flesh. The hand did not reach for her. Not yet. It simply hovered above the waves, glowing softly in the night, waiting. Amara's breath trembled. Her mind screamed to run, to untie the boat and flee back to shore, but her body did not move. Something deeper than fear held her in place. The hand curled slowly, gently, beckoning, and the river whispered again, "Amara." The hand did not vanish. It lingered, glowing softly in the moonlight, its light rippling across the water like golden threads. Amara's fear melted into curiosity, a quiet pull that urged her to lean closer, slowly, gracefully. The glow began to shape itself, not just a hand, but an arm, and then a figure rising from the depths of the Nile. The water did not splash or roar. Instead, it parted like silk, silent and obedient, allowing the form to step forth. A woman stood before her, tall, radiant, her robes flowing as though woven from the river itself. Hair shimmered with strands of starlight, and her eyes were endless, deep pools that reflected the entire night sky. Asterisk. Amara's lips parted, but no words came. The figure raised her hand, not in threat, but in blessing. "You have heard me, child," the spirit said, her voice soft as drifting reeds, yet strong enough to echo. The boat touched the temple steps with barely a sound. Amara stepped out, her bare feet meeting cool, polished stone. The air was heavy, not with heat, but with memory. Each breath carried the faint scent of lotus, of desert wind, of time itself. She walked forward slowly, her hand brushing against the tall, carved walls. The hieroglyphs glowed faintly beneath her touch, and she felt feelings, not words, but emotions, peace, safety, stillness, and something deeper, something endless. The further she walked, the more the temple opened. Pillars rose like giant trees, their tops lost in golden mist. Between them, statues of the gods stood, silently, their eyes glowing with a gentle, watchful light. Ra's golden sun disk hovered above, warm but not blinding. Isis spread her great wings of protection, feathers shimmering like jewels. Thoth held a scroll that seemed to write itself, glowing symbols drifting into the air before fading into nothingness, but it was not frightening. The gods were not distant rulers. Here, they were guardians, quiet and kind, watching as though she were a child asleep in their care. Amara stepped into the heart of the temple. A vast pool of water lay there, still as glass, reflecting the golden pillars and statues. Yet, when she looked closer, she saw that the pool was not reflecting the temple, it was reflecting her dreams and the water. She saw herself as a child, running through the fields, her laughter caught in the wind. She saw her mother singing softly while weaving reeds into baskets. She saw 100 quiet moments, forgotten in her waking life, but preserved here. In the temple of dreams, her chest grew warm, her eyes heavy. The Nile spirit's voice floated behind her. This temple holds every dream, every wish, every moment of rest. It is watched over kings and workers, healers and wanderers. You are no different, Amara. You are part of the story, as they were. Amara knelt beside the pool, her reflection wavering with the ripples. Slowly, she dipped her hand into the water. Instead of cool wetness, she felt warmth, like a blanket pulled over her shoulders. The ripples spread outward, soft, steady, endless, still carrying her deeper into a sleep beyond sleep. The temple's golden light dimmed, not into darkness, but into comfort. The pillars blurred into mist. The god statues softened, their watchful eyes closing. Amara lay down beside the pool, her head resting against the smooth stone. The temple hummed gently around her, a lullaby without words, silence that was full instead of empty. Her breathing slowed, her body melted into the stone, her thoughts scattered like grains of sand into the night. And as her eyes closed, the temple of dreams sealed itself, not with doors, but with the promise of safety. The Nile spirit whispered one final time, "Rest, child of the river. Your dreams are guarded here. No shadow, no fear may enter. Leave peace." And in the golden silence of the temple, Amara drifted safe, endless, eternal. Amara lay upon the smooth stone, her body weightless, her breathing slow. The golden light of the pillars had dimmed into a soft glow, and the only sound was the gentle ripple of the pool beside her. She thought she might drift into sleep, but something stirred beneath the surface of the water. She sat up slowly, gazing into the pool. The water shimmered like liquid glass, and within it, images began to form, not just vague shapes, but faces, familiar faces. At first, she saw her mother. The image was so clear that Amara almost reached into the pool, almost whispered her name. Her mother's eyes sparkled with the same warmth Amara remembered from childhood evenings, when lullabies floated like gentle wind through their small home by the riverbank. The sight filled her chest with longing, yet also with comfort, as though the years between them had folded into nothing. Then the water shifted. She saw her father standing tall, holding a basket of reeds by the river's edge. He was younger here, stronger, his hands steady as he worked. Amara remembered how he always smelled faintly of earth and grain, how his laughter echoed against the Nile's current. He looked up from his work in the vision, and though he could not see her, Mara felt as if his smile was meant only for her. The water rippled again. Now she saw herself not as she was, but as a small child running barefoot through the fields, her laughter chasing birds into the sky. She had forgotten that sound, that pure joy, the kind only a child can hold. Tears pricked at her eyes, but they were not heavy tears. They were light, like the release of something long kept inside. The Nile spirit's voice drifted softly behind her. This temple does not hold only dreams of the future. It also remembers the past. Every smile, every touch, every fleeting moment is preserved in the water's heart. It does not matter how much time has passed. Love, once born, does not vanish. Amara leaned closer to the pool, her reflection shimmering with the images of those she had lost. For a moment, she saw more faces, neighbors, long gone friends. From her childhood, even the face of a small dog that had once followed her to the fields every morning. Each vision glowed softly, not sharp, but gentle, like fragments of memory captured in golden light. Asterisk, her throat ached with emotion. Why do I see them? She whispered. The spirit answered, because your heart remembers. And when the heart remembers with love, the temple answers. These faces are not shadows. They are gifts, reminders that you are never truly alone. They walk beside you, carried in the quietest corners of your soul. Amara touched the surface of the water. It rippled, but instead of breaking the images, the ripples spread warmth through her fingers, up her arm, and into her chest. She closed her eyes, and the warmth settled in her heart like a flame, gentle, steady, eternal. The pool's light dimmed slowly, fading not into darkness, but into calm. The faces grew softer, then vanished, leaving only her own reflection in the golden water. Yet the warmth remained, and the ache in her chest was gone, placed by peace. The temple seemed to sigh, as though it, too, had released something heavy. The pillars shimmered faintly. The statues of the gods leaned in silence, their eyes glowing softly with approval. The Nile spirit stepped closer, her voice low and tender. You have seen what many fear to remember, but you did not run. You embraced it, and so you will carry them with you always. Amara lay back once more, her body sinking into the stone floor. She felt lighter now, as though some unseen weight had been lifted. The air was cool, silence deep, her eyes closed, and her last thought before slipping into the soft pool of dreams was not of fear, but of love, gentle, unending, shining like the river beneath the stars. The temple of dreams rested in golden stillness, its pool shimmering faintly as Amara lay upon the stone floor. Yet slowly, her awareness began to sharpen, as though the silence itself was calling her forward. The Nile spirit moved beside her, her gaze shifting toward the far end of the chamber. This temple is vast, she whispered, her voice like drifting reeds on water. Few ever walk beyond this pool. But you, Amara, the river has chosen you to see more. Amara lifted herself onto her elbows, her body heavy, but her curiosity stronger. She glanced toward the shadowed halls stretching beyond the glowing pillars. At first, they looked empty, but the longer she gazed, the more she felt a pull, like an unseen current drawing her deeper. The spirit extended her hand. Will you follow? Amara hesitated, but nodded. She rose to her feet, her bare steps echoing softly across the stone. The temple did not feel threatening. Silence was not hollow, but full of something waiting, something ancient and immense. They walked past the pool, past statues that towered like watchful guardians. Each figure seemed to turn its head ever so slightly as Amara passed, though she could not tell if it was real or only her imagination. At the end of the hall, a great doorway appeared, carved with hieroglyphs that shimmered faintly though no torch lit them. Its carvings told a story, a scale perfectly balanced with a feather on one side and a heart on the other. Around it stood the jackal-headed figure of Anubis, guardian of the afterlife. Amara's breath caught. She had seen such carvings in her village, etched on small relics and whispered about in bedtime tales. But here, the story felt alive. The Nile spirit touched the doorway. Beyond lies the chamber of silence, she said. It is guarded by he who weighs the heart. Do not fear. He does not harm the living. He only watches, only judges truth. The stone door rumbled, opening not outward, but inward, as if the temple itself was breathing. Inside, the chamber was vast and empty. The walls were smooth and black, polished like obsidian, reflecting the faint glow of the temple. At its center stood a great golden scale, tall as two men, balanced perfectly, unmoving, and beside it, a figure. Anubis, tall, still jackal-headed, his body draped in robes that shimmered like the night sky. His eyes glowed faintly with golden fire, but not harshly. He radiated presence, not threat silence, that was not empty, but eternal. Amara froze at the sight. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from awe. She felt smaller than she had ever felt, like a grain of sand before the desert, like a drop of water before the sea. The Nile spirit placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. Do not bow, do not tremble. He is not your judge tonight. No. You walk here as a dreamer, not a soul. Anubis slowly turned his head. The movement was silent, smooth as the shifting of the moon. His eyes fell upon Amara, and though his gaze was heavy, it did not crush her. Instead, it anchored her, holding her in place with a quiet certainty. He lifted one hand, pointing toward the golden scale. Amara's chest tightened. What does he want? She whispered. The spirit's voice was calm. He asks if you trust your heart. Amara's mind swirled. Her heart. She thought of her fears, her doubts, the weight she carried. Could it be enough? Could it balance against the feather of truth she had seen carved into the doorway? Her hands trembled, but slowly she placed her palm over her chest, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. It was strong, quiet, unbroken. Yes, she whispered softly, more to herself than to him. I trusted. The golden scale trembled faintly though. Nothing had touched it. A single feather appeared upon one sidelight, glowing, perfect. On the other side, a faint shadow of a heart shimmered, then steadied. The scales balanced perfectly. Anubis inclined his head, a slow, deliberate gesture. Not approval, not rejection, acknowledgement. Recognition. The chamber grew warmer. The obsidian walls shimmered with golden light. Hey, and for a moment, Amara felt as though she was standing not in a temple, but inside her own heart, balanced, calm, eternal. Anubis lowered his hand, returning to stillness, his gaze no longer upon her, but upon eternity itself. The Nile spirit guided her gently back toward the doorway. You have seen the guardian, she whispered, and you have learned what many never do, that the heart, when trusted, is always enough. As they stepped from the chamber, the golden door sealed behind them with a deep, resonant hum. Amara breathed deeply, her fear gone, her chest light. She had not been judged. She had been reminded. The spirit smiled faintly. Now you are ready to walk deeper into dreams. And the temple opened again before her, waiting with endless halls of mystery. The wind shifted. Amara felt the air grow cooler, the fragrance of papyrus and ink drifting toward her. The temple doors closed behind her with a sigh, and before her stretched a passageway carved deep into the earth. She followed it quietly, her footsteps soft against the polished stone. A golden light glowed faintly at the end of the corridor. As she stepped forward, the walls widened into a vast chamber-hidden library. It was unlike any place she had ever seen. Scrolls lay stacked in golden alcoves that reached higher than she could see, stretching into darkness. Great papyrus rolls were tied with silk threads that shimmered with faint light, as though the words within were alive. Stone tablets floated gently above their pedestals, etched with hieroglyphs that glowed softly, illuminating the chamber like stars scattered across a midnight sky. In the center, a single figure stood waiting. Not a spirit of water, nor a goddess of the sky. This one was cloaked in robes of twilight, with a hood that hid their face. Their voice came like the turning of pages, gentle yet endless. "Welcome, Amara," the figure whispered. "This is the library of eternity. Every dream, every story, every memory of Egypt is kept here. Each scroll is a heartbeat. Each word is a soul." Amara's breath caught. She stepped closer to the shelves, her fingers trembling as she reached toward one glowing scroll. The hooded figure lifted a hand, and the scroll unraveled in the air before her. The letters glowed, forming images that floated like smoke. She saw the Nile overflowing with life, reeds swaying in the breeze. She saw the building of the pyramids as labor, but as music, as thousands of voices sang in harmony, raising stone as if guided by rhythm. She saw children laughing under palm trees, merchants along bustling markets, queens crowned in gold, pharaohs standing proud under the eternal sun. The images shifted, again battles fought, victories won, tears shed, and prayers whispered into the desert winds. Each vision faded gently into the next, flowing like a dream with no beginning and no end. The figure's voice echoed softly, "Amara." Each scroll carries not only history, but dreams, and dreams are alive, waiting for listeners. Tonight, they have chosen you. Mara closed her eyes, letting the stories wash over her. She did not feel burdened. Instead, she felt lighter, as though the memories of Egypt had folded themselves into her heart. Not as weight, but as wings. She whispered, "I hear them." And the scroll responded, curling back into its place, as though satisfied. The figure bowed slightly. "You carry them now. When you walk further into this dream, they will walk with you. Fear nothing. You are never alone in the sands of time." Amara smiled faintly, her eyelids heavy. The chamber's glow dimmed until it was only the soft flicker of hieroglyphs on the walls, like stars guiding her deeper into slumber. She walked forward slowly, each step quieter than the last, until she disappeared into the heart of the library. Amara felt the library walls dissolve into darkness. The whispers of scrolls faded into the sound of water. But it was not the Nile. Before her stretched a river that glowed with silver light, winding through the heavens like a serpent made of stars. Its current was slow, yet endless, carrying shimmering fragments of dreams across its surface. At the edge of the river, waiting silently, was a boat unlike any she had seen. It was long and slender, carved from golden wood that shimmered as though polished by the sun itself. The prow was shaped like a falcon's head, eyes burning softly with protective fire. Along its sides, constellations were etched, glowing faintly in the dark. A gentle voice rose from the river. "This is the solar boat, the same vessel that carries Ra across the skies by day and through the underworld by night. Tonight, it will carry you." Amara stepped forward, her feet touching the deck as if it had been waiting for her alone. The air was cool, scented with lotus blossoms that drifted above the waters. She sat at the center, her heart calm, and the boat began to move without oars, without wind. The river lifted, rising higher and higher, until it left the earth far below. The desert vanished, the pyramids became faint shapes, and soon the boat was gliding among the stars themselves. The sky above opened wide, constellations stretched across eternity. She saw the hunter Orion, the protective cow Hathor, and the sacred scarab rolling the sun along its path. Each constellation shimmered as though alive, bowing gently as the boat passed. Then came a soft glow at the horizon, the great sun disk, hidden beyond the veil of night. Its warmth kissed her skin, though it did not burn. She felt the boat's rhythm, steady as a heartbeat, guiding her deeper into the dream. Around her, voices rose in quiet song, though no singers could be seen. They were ancient hymns, prayers once sung on the banks of the Nile, now carried forever in the river of the sky. Amara, a voice whispered, gentle, maternal, like the river itself. You are part of this journey now. The same stars that guided the pharaohs guide you to. Drift with them. Trust them. Her eyes grew heavy, her body soft against the golden deck. The solar boat sailed onward, timeless, endless, safe. Asterisk, the stars above blurred into gentle light. And the hum of the river soothed her into deeper slumber, carrying her across the sky like a child cradled in the arms of eternity. The solar boat glided for what felt like an eternity. Amara's body was light, as though she were made of the same starlight that surrounded her. Then slowly the silver river narrowed, flowing into a canyon carved of obsidian stone. The stars above grew dimmer, replaced by lanterns that floated on their own, each flame glowing blue instead of gold. The air was quiet, too quiet. The boat slowed, then stopped. Before her rose a pair of towering gates. They were carved of dark granite, higher than the pyramids themselves. Each door covered in intricate hieroglyphs that shimmered faintly as though alive. The gates seemed to breathe, opening just a fraction, letting out a cool wind scented with cedar and myrrh. Amara's heart beat faster. This was no ordinary place. She knew it instinctively. A deep voice rumbled through the shadows. Few are brought here in dreams. Even fewer may pass. Amara turned from the mist. A tall figure emerged. Its body was strong, draped in linen that shimmered like silver under moonlight. Its head was that of a jackal, sleek and black, with eyes glowing like twin embers in the dark. Anubis, the guardian of the dead, the keeper of secrets. Amara did not feel fear. Instead, an odd calmness spread through her, like sinking into cool water. Anubis raised his hand slowly, and the blue lanterns brightened. You are not among the dead, child, he said, his voice deep but steady, like stone rolling across stone. Yet you have wandered close to their path. Do you know why? Amara shook her head, her lips unable to form words. The god stepped closer, his shadow stretching across the golden deck of the solar boat. He knelt so that his ember-like eyes were level with hers. You are seeking, he said softly, seeking answers carried in the silence of eternity. That is why the river has brought you here. His hand stretched out, palm up. Resting in it was a small object, a feather, height as moonlight, glowing faintly, delicate as air. This, Anubis said, is the feather of Meth, the symbol of truth and balance. Every soul must face it at the weighing of the heart. But you, Amara, you are given it, not as judgment, but as a guide. He placed the feather gently in her hands. It was lighter than silk, yet it pulsed faintly, as though alive. The gates behind him creaked, opening a little wider. A faint golden glow spilled from within, warm and soft, like dawn hiding just behind the horizon. Beyond these gates, Anubis whispered, are the dream realms where memory and eternity merge. Walk carefully, but do not fear. You are protected. Here, Amara felt her chest loosen, as though a hidden weight had been lifted. The solar boat moved again, carrying her slowly toward the gates. The golden glow bathed her skin, warming her as if the sun itself had descended into the underworld. The gates opened fully now, revealing a corridor of light stretching endlessly forward. On either side stood statues of forgotten gods, silent and watchful. The air hummed with low music, a rhythm like the heartbeat of the earth itself. As the boat entered, Amara looked back once. Anubis still stood there, tall and steady, his ember eyes calm. He bowed his head, slightly a gesture, not of command, but of blessing, and then the gates closed behind her. Amara drifted deeper into the realm of dreams, her hand clutching the feather mat, knowing she carried a truth greater than herself, though its meaning remained hidden. Waiting for the right moment, the golden corridor stretched on, glowing brighter, wrapping her in light, lulling her into a deeper stillness. The hum of the ancient music seemed to breathe with her, till the entire world moved in the rhythm of her breath. She was safe, she was guided, and she was not alone. The golden corridor stretched endlessly before Amara, glowing as though it were alive. Each step of the solar boat sent ripples of light across its walls, as if she were sailing not through stone, but through liquid dawn. The air was cool and heavy, carrying the scent of lotus flowers mixed with the faint spice of incense. Somewhere far ahead, soft music played, low flutes and deep drums, rising and falling like the ocean tide. Amara clutched the feather in her hand. It pulsed faintly against her skin, guiding her heartbeat into rhythm with the strange music. Then, as if in answer to her breath, the corridor widened. The solar boat slid silently into a vast hall, its ceiling so high it disappeared into mist. Pillars of obsidian stretched upward like giant trees, their surfaces carved with stories that shifted as she looked at them, hieroglyphs glowing and rearranging themselves, playing forgotten histories in endless loops. And in the center of this colossal space stood Thrones, not one, but dozens. Each throne was carved from gold, stone, or alabaster, and upon each sat a figure draped in ceremonial robes. They were pharaohs, kings, and queens of Egypt, long departed, their crowns glinting in the dim glow, their eyes half closed as though sleeping. Yet they were not statues. Their chests rose and fell slowly, and now and then one would turn its head, ever so slightly, as though aware of her presence. Amara's breath caught. She whispered softly, "The silent pharaohs." As the solar boat drifted forward, she realized each ruler held an object in their hands. One grasped a crook and flail, another a golden scepter, another a papyrus scroll glowing faintly. And yet none spoke. It was the feather in her palm that stirred. It glowed brighter, and suddenly she heard its whispers, not with her ears, but inside her mind. The whispers were soft, overlapping, like winds moving through reeds along the Nile. Voices of kings and queens, of generals and priests, speaking as one, seeker of balance, child of the waking world. Why have you come to the hall of silence? Amara's lips parted, but no sound came. The solar boat slowed before the grandest throne of all, where a figure sat crowned with both the red and white crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt. His eyes opened, glowing like twin suns. The hall darkened, the music hushed. This was no ordinary pharaoh. This was a voice of eternity. "Do not fear," he said, his words deep and steady, yet echoing as though 1,000 voices spoke with him. "You carry the feather of Mat. It binds you to truth. Here, no lies can cling to you. No shadows may hide from you." He leaned forward, his gaze piercing but calm. "The dream realm does not open to mortals by chance. You were chosen." Amara, her heart thundered. Chosen? For what? The pharaoh's smile was small but knowing, to remember what has been forgotten, to carry it back to the waking world, to bring balance where balance has been lost. The pharaohs stirred slightly at his words. A ripple of movement passed through the hall, and the whispers grew louder. Some were gentle, some sounded sorrowful. Few were almost warning, but all of them pressed the same truth into her soul. She had entered a place not meant for ordinary dreams. The grand pharaoh raised his hand, and light spilled from his palm, forming a shape in the air. A map, not of lands she knew, but of sky's constellations bending into pathways. Rivers of starlight winding across eternity. This is the path, he intoned. Few can walk it, fewer still can return. But if you do, child, you will awaken with more than memory. You will awaken with knowing. The map pulsed once, then dissolved, sinking into her chest. She gasped as warmth filled her, like fire and sunlight at once. And then, just as suddenly, the pharaohs closed their eyes again. The hall grew silent, heavy, eternal. The solar boat moved once more, carrying her past the thrones and deeper into the glowing mists. The feather in her palm glowed steadily now, no longer pulsing in question, but humming in quiet certainty. Amara sat, her heart racing, her mind alight. She was chosen. She had been given a path, but to where, and for what purpose, the dream realm was not yet ready to reveal. The solar boat drifted on, leaving the hall of silent pharaohs behind. The golden thrones dissolved into mist, and with each breath Amara took, the air itself seemed to grow thinner, cooler, yet clearer. The glow of torches and carved walls gave way to something vast above her. The ceiling split apart, melting away into a boundless sky of midnight blue. Stars shimmered everywhere, more brilliant, more alive than any she had ever seen in waking life. Some pulsed like beating hearts, others shimmered like ripples upon water. The constellations were not fixed, but moving, weaving in slow spirals, like dancers in an eternal ballet. The solar boat rose as though lifted by invisible tides. The air grew weightless, her body light, as though she too were becoming part of the stars. The feather of Maat burned gently in her hand, casting threads of golden light that extended outward. They connected with the stars, tugging her forward, along a path that was not made of stone or sand, but of shimmering constellations themselves. She whispered to herself, the star path, and the stars whispered back. Every cluster she passed seemed to hum with voices, ancient, layered, echoing. They told fragments of stories, kings who had risen, queens who had wept, warriors who had fallen, and civilizations that had blossomed and vanished like flowers in the desert sun. Yet, beneath the multitude of voices was a single, steady rhythm like a heartbeat, like the slow breathing of the universe itself. The solar boat sailed on, gliding past constellations shaped like animals, a falcon spreading its wings, a lion crouching in eternal watch, a serpent coiled and uncoiled. Each one seemed alive, watching her as she passed. The falcon lowered its head, eyes glowing. A voice filled her chest. Fly higher than fear, child of earth, for fear blinds the eyes that must see. The lion rumbled, his mane flowing like golden fire. Guard your spirit well, for the road ahead is long, and shadows will hunger for your light. The serpent slithered across the sky, its body endless, stretching from horizon to horizon. Nothing ends, nothing begins. All circles back again. Learn this truth, and you will not despair. Amara clutched the feather tightly, her heart racing at each message. They were warnings. They were gifts. They were fragments of a puzzle, too vast to understand. The solar boat glided onward. The constellations shifted. Now the stars formed a river, a gleaming Nile, flowing across the heavens. Its water sparkled silver, its current strong, pulling her forward. For a moment, She thought she heard laughter on the breeze, children's laughter, high and light. She turned, and there they were, shadows of children running across the star river, their bodies woven from constellations. They chased each other joyfully, their voices echoing like bells, but when she blinked, they were gone. The river was empty. Loneliness pressed at her chest, but the feather warmed in her palm, steadying her heart. The river carried the solar boat into a darker place now. The stars above dimmed. The air grew colder. Black clouds drifted, veiling sections of the sky, and in those shadows she saw eyes. Eyes that did not belong to gods or animals, but to something else. Something that waited. The boat slowed. The feather's glow flickered as though uncertain. Amara's breath quickened, and then, from the depths of the dark sky, a figure began to emerge. It was vast, taller than mountains, broader than the Nile, its shape shifting with every heartbeat. At times, it looked like a robed giant, at times like a jackal, at times like nothing she could name. Its body was woven of darkness, its eyes twin voids. The air trembled with its presence when it spoke. It was not in words, but in vibrations that rattled her bones. You walk where mortals should not. Her voice was small, but steady. I was chosen. The figure leaned forward, its shadow falling over her. Chosen, yes, but chosen for what? To carry wisdom or to carry burden? The stars quivered around them, some dimming as though afraid. The feather in her hand pulsed brighter, shielding her with a soft aura. The figure hissed, not in anger, but in acknowledgement. Very well, pass, for now, but know this. Every step you take binds you closer to truth, and truth is never light. It is heavy. It will test you. The shadow dissolved into the star river, leaving the path open once more. Amara exhaled, realizing she had been holding her breath. Her hands trembled. The solar boat surged forward again, faster this time, though eager to escape the darkness. Ahead, the sky brightened once more. A new constellation appeared, vast and radiant, a scale balanced perfectly between two pans, and Amara knew this was the symbol of Ma'at. The feather in her palm glowed until it felt almost too bright to hold. The boat slowed before the constellation. Waiting, Amara stood, her body trembling, her spirit steady. She lifted the feather toward the scales. The stars themselves shifted in response. One pan filled with shadow-sphere, doubt, chaos. The other pan filled with light, truth, memory, harmony. The scales teetered, trembling, and then steadied. Balanced up for a heartbeat, all the stars in the sky shone brighter, still applauding silently. Amara lowered the feather, tears stinging her eyes. She did not know what awaited beyond the star path, but something inside her changed. She was no longer simply a dreamer wandering through visions. She was becoming part of the dream itself. The solar boat turned, carrying her deeper into the constellations. The whispers grew louder. The path stretched on, endless and infinite, and Amara followed, heart steady, feather glowing. Guided by the light of eternity, Amara felt the desert winds return, warm yet soft, carrying her gently out of the shadowed caverns. The air grew sweeter, as though perfumed with blossoms unseen. Ahead, through a shimmering veil of heat, a hidden oasis revealed itself. It was no ordinary oasis. The pool at its center glowed faintly, as though fed not by water, but by starlight itself. Palm trees leaned over the glassy surface, their long leaves whispering lullabies that had no beginning and no end. The sand was white as ivory, and flowers bloomed in colors she could not name, hues that seemed woven from dreams. Amara stepped closer, and as she did, the still water-stirred dot figures began to appear, rising like gentle shadows from the glowing pool. Not frightening, not sorrowful, but calm, dignified, serene. These were not gods. not spirits of power. They were the forgotten souls of ordinary people, long past, whose names had been lost to time. Farmers who once tilled the banks of the Nile, children who once played in temple courtyards, mothers who once sang their babies to sleep under the same stars now shining above. They gathered around her silently, their faces glowing faintly like lanterns, and then, as one, they began to speak. Asterisk, not with voices, but with memory. Amara heard their laughter, their footsteps. In the fields, the sound of clay jars being lowered into water, the distant drums of forgotten festivals. Thousands of lives, ordinary and extraordinary, whispered into her heart. You carry us forward, one voice finally said, soft as the rustling palms. The pharaohs had their pyramids, the priests had their temples. But we had our dreams. We gave our love to the land. Though our names are lost, our dreams live on in you and all who remember. Amara knelt by the water, touched by the glow of their presence. She realized now that Egypt was not built only by kings and gods, but by countless hands, countless lives, by people who loved, worked, and dreamed in silence, leaving behind invisible legacies that still shaped the desert winds. The pool rippled again, and in its surface, Amara saw herself reflected, not as she was, but as she could become, guardian of memory, a dreamer who carried not just her own hopes, but the quiet hopes of many. The forgotten souls leaned closer, their touch weightless, cool as mist. Each left a fragment of their dream with her, a blessing, a promise, a song. She felt them settling into her heart, like stars filling the night sky as the last soul faded back into the glowing water. The oasis grew still once more. The air hummed with silence, heavy yet comforting, like the pause before dawn. Amara closed her eyes, overwhelmed by peace. She understood now. Every whisper, every story, every forgotten name was a thread in the great tapestry of eternity, and she was part of it. The palms swayed gently. The starlight shimmered on the pool, and in that hidden oasis, Amara rested, drifting into a sleep deeper than she had ever known. The air around Amara shimmered as though the oasis itself had exhaled. She lifted her gaze from the glowing pool, and for the first time she noticed the sky was not still. It was moving. Constellations shifted like living beings, stars weaving across the heavens with purpose, as though forming patterns only the gods could read. Before she could draw breath, the ground beneath her gave way, not violently, but like a soft wave carrying her upward. Sand turned to light, palms dissolved into golden sparks. She was rising, weightless, drawn toward the endless canopy of stars. The silence here was vast, so deep it pressed gently against her ears. Then came a hum, low, resonant, eternal. It was not sound, but vibration, a cosmic heartbeat. Amara opened her eyes fully and found herself standing not on land, not in water, but upon a path of silver light stretching across the heavens. Beneath her, galaxies spun like whirlpools. Above her, glowing figures drifted between constellations, their forms shaped from stardust. The celestial realm, the eternal home of gods, forgotten deities, and the cosmic spirits who guarded Egypt's sky. A great hawk soared overhead, its wings vast enough to shadow entire constellations. Its eyes burned like suns, and when it cried out, the stars trembled in response. Amara knew without needing to be told. This was Horus, the falcon god, eternal guardian of the sky. Horus, she whispered, bowing instinctively. The hawk descended, folding its wings until it stood before her, tall and regal, crowned with the golden disk of the sun. His gaze was sharp, yet kind, filled with the weight of centuries. Asterisk, you have walked the sands, the river, and the underworld, Horus said. his voice echoing like thunder wrapped in silk. But now you walk where few mortals may tread. You know why you were brought here, child of dreams. Asterisk, Amara's heart trembled. She shook her head, her voice soft. No, but I feel it. Horus extended a hand of light, and when Amara touched it, visions spilled into her mind. She saw the constellations, not as simple stars, but as stories written in fire. Each constellation pulsed with memory. Orion hunting, the great serpent, coiling, the goddess Nut, stretching across the sky. They were not only myths, they were living truths. You stand at the threshold between what was and what is yet to come, Horus said. The stars remember all, and they whispered to you because you have the courage to listen. Behind him, another presence emerged, tall, veiled in midnight blue, her skin speckled with glittering starlight. She was vast, her body stretching from horizon to horizon, her eyes deep as eternity. It was Nut, the goddess of the sky herself. Her voice was gentle but boundless, carrying the weight of infinity. Amara, Nut whispered, the world dreams through you, and your heart rests the balance between the living and the eternal. What you carry now is not only your dream, but the dreams of all Egypt, the voices of the forgotten, the guardians of the Nile, the breath of the desert winds. The goddess leaned closer, and her starlit hand touched Amara's forehead. In that instant, Amara felt herself expand. She was no longer a single dreamer, she was the night sky itself, filled with constellations, stories, and timeless whispers. She could feel the weight of eternity and the lightness of a single heartbeat at once. She gasped, but Nut's voice soothed her. Do not fear, little one. You are not here to be burdened, You are here to remember that you are part of the great weaving. The stars, the sands, the waters, the people, all are threads, and you, Amara, are one who can see them. The sky pulsed with light, and suddenly the constellations shifted. A new pattern emerged, glowing bright above Amara's head. It was unfamiliar, not a pharaoh, not a god, not an animal. It was a girl, standing tall, holding a lantern of starlight. Amara gasped. That's me. Horus bowed his head. Nut smiled. The stars now carry your memory as you carry theirs. You are bound to the heavens, Amara. When mortals look to the sky, they will see your light, even if they do not know your name. The air shimmered, and the celestial path beneath her feet began to fade. Horus's falcon wings spread wide once more. Nut's vast form stretched into endless night. Go, Nut whispered. The stars will always watch over you. But your journey is not yet complete. There are more dreams waiting to be found. The heavens dissolved into brilliance. Amara felt herself falling, not in fear, but in peace, carried once more to the threshold of another realm. Asterisk, when the celestial boat came to rest at the edge of the river of stars, Amara felt the starlight thinning, giving way to a dim, hushed glow. She stepped ashore and found herself before a vast temple, carved not from stone, but from pure silence. It was immense, rising like a mountain against the void, yet it seemed weightless, as if balanced on a single breath. Columns towered upward, etched with symbols that glowed faintly, shifting whenever she blinked. The doors were open, but inside there was no light, only a hush that pressed against her ears like velvet. She entered, her footsteps making no sound, not even the faintest echo at once. She realized this was no ordinary temple. Here, sound did not exist. Her heartbeat made no thrum. Her breath made no whisper. Even her thoughts felt heavier, as though the silence sought to still them too. Amara moved deeper, and the hall unfolded endlessly, like a labyrinth of shadows and faint glimmers. Along the walls stood statues, not of gods, but of figures in meditation, their eyes closed, their lips sealed. She felt them watching, yet unmoving, guardians of the silence. Then, from nowhere, a voice bloomed directly inside her mind. Not spoken, not heard, thought. The gods are born in silence. The stars move in silence. The heart of truth beats in silence. If you wish to pass, child of dreams, you must listen without ears, speak without sound. The chamber shifted. The walls stretched into an endless corridor lined with doors, thousands of them, all sealed tight. She understood at once. She must choose, but not with her eyes, not with her hands, only with her heart. Amara slowed her breathing, closed her eyes, let the silence press in. At first, it was unbearable, too vast, too heavy. Yet, within it, faint ripples stirred. Not words, not sounds, but echoes of thought, memories, fragments of feelings. Behind one door, she felt sorrow. Behind another, joy. Behind yet another, fear. She wandered, hands brushing against the doors, and realized the temple was not filled with rooms at all, but with the choices, echoes of every dream and nightmare the world had ever known. Finally, her heart pulled her to a single door. It glowed faintly under her touch, but she did not open it with hands. Instead, she leaned her forehead against it, let her thoughts expand, and whispered within her own mind, "I am ready." The door dissolved. Light poured out, soft and endless, not blinding, but warm. Within, she found not treasures, not power, but herself, a reflection, seated in meditation, eyes closed, lips curved in the faintest smile. Her reflection opened its eyes. No sound passed between them, yet Amara understood everything in that instant. The silence was not empty. It was full of all things waiting to be heard. The temple trembled faintly, as if acknowledging her passage. The statues along the walls bowed their heads. A path of light formed ahead, carrying her gently toward the far side of the chamber. As she crossed it, Amara felt lighter than ever before, as though a burden had been lifted from her spirit. The silence no longer pressed on her. Instead, it wrapped around her like a cloak, protective and eternal. When she emerged on the other side, the temple faded behind her like mist, and the stars returned. But now she carried the silence within her, a secret strength no voice could break. The silence of the temple still lingered in Amara's soul as she stepped into the next realm. But here, there was no stillness. The air trembled with heat. A golden desert stretched endlessly before her, not the cool sands of Egypt at night, but dunes ablaze, glowing as if fire slept beneath them. The sky above was not dark, but a blazing copper, burning brighter than 1,000 sunsets. The horizon itself shimmered, a line of molten fire where earth and sky touched. Amara shielded her eyes, but the heat seemed to seep through her skin, into her very bones. She staggered forward, feeling the soles of her sandals grow hot against the scorched sand. From somewhere high above, a hawk's cry pierced the furnace of silence. She looked up. It was Ra's falcon, wings made of flame, soaring in circles, each beat of its wings fanning the fire across the sky. Suddenly, the ground quaked. A voice thundered from every direction, deep and commanding, the voice of the sun god himself. "Amara, child of shadows and dreams, you have passed through silence, but can you endure fire? Can you walk the path where even the gods tremble?" The dunes began to shift. From beneath them rose colossal statues of warriors, their bodies made of glowing obsidian, their eyes burning with embers. Each carried spears tipped with fire, and as they stepped forward, the sand turned molten beneath their feet. Amara's heart pounded. She had no weapon, no shield, only her spirit. The falcon of Ra swooped low, its flaming feathers scattering sparks that ignited the ground into rivers of fire. The path ahead was revealed, a narrow trail across burning dunes, leading toward the horizon of flames. Asterisk, she understood. She had to cross it, but every step brought trials. The first dune rose steep as a mountain, its sand so hot it scorched the air. Amara's sandals burned away, leaving her bare feet to the trial. She gasped, but as she pressed forward, she found that her determination cooled the ground beneath her with each step. The fire could not consume a soul that refused to yield. Statues moved. One raised its spear and hurled it toward her, a streak of fire tearing the air. Amara ducked, the heat searing past her cheek. Another came, and another. She realized she could not run. Instead, she closed her eyes and reached inward, summoning the silence she had earned in the temple. The flames slowed. The spears dimmed. They struck the sand harmlessly, fizzling out before her. Asterisk. Still, the trial grew harder. The dunes grew taller, the air heavier. Sweat poured down her face, evaporating as soon as it appeared. The falcon shrieked again, this time diving toward her, its talons molten gold, stretched wide as though to seize her. Amara stopped running. She stood firm, chest rising, and whispered in her heart, "I will not be consumed. The fire gives life as it destroys. I am part of both." The falcon's talons closed around her, but instead of tearing, it lifted her high, high into the copper sky, through waves of heat that blurred the world below. She clung to nothing, suspended in flame, but felt no pain. The fire coursed around her, inside her, till she was glowing with it. Asterisk. Then, Ra's voice thundered again, closer, warmer, like the heart of the sun itself. "You have not fled. You have not fought. You have embraced the fire. You are worthy to carry its light." The falcon released her. She floated down gently, landing upon the final dune. Ahead, the horizon of fire split open, revealing a radiant gate forged from pure sunlight. Beyond it lay the next trial, shadows, waiting. Amara looked at her hands. They burned faintly with a golden glow, not painful, but powerful. She carried the gift of Ra now, the courage of fire, as she stepped toward the gate, the dunes behind. Her folded back into stillness, as though the desert had been nothing more than a dream. But the fire within her was real, and so she passed onward, a little stronger, a little braver, carrying silence in one hand and fire in the other. The blazing fire of Ra faded behind Amara, leaving only a faint warmth glowing within her chest. She stepped through the radiant gate, expecting light, but instead, it's darkness. It was not the peaceful stillness of the temple of silence, nor the glowing warmth of the desert. This darkness was alive, shifting, breathing, whispering. Footsteps echoed as if in a vast chamber, though she could see no walls. Then, a faint glow appeared ahead. A mirror, tall as a door, framed in obsidian and silver, floated in the void. Its surface rippled like black water, though it reflected nothing. As she drew closer, voices began to rise from the shadows. They came from all directions, hundreds, thousands of whispers, some mocking, some pleading. She could not tell if they belonged to strangers, gods, or her own thoughts. One voice hissed, "You are nothing but a dreamer. You will fail as all before you failed." Another wept, "Turn back, child, turn back, or you will be lost forever." Amara's hands trembled. She pressed them against her ears, but the voices only grew louder, echoing inside her skull. The mirror shuddered, and suddenly an image appeared, her own face, but not as she was older. Weary eyes, sunken, lips twisted with bitterness. This version of herself stepped out of the mirror, barefoot on the black stone floor. The figure smirked. "I am you, the you who will never be enough. The you who breaks beneath the weight of trials. The you who envies, who doubts, who fears. And you cannot destroy me, because I am your truth." The shadow Amara circled her eyes, glinting like shards of obsidian. They Say you were chosen, but chosen for what? To bleed, to suffer, to be forgotten. Amara's breath caught. She wanted to argue, to deny, but part of her believed it. The chamber shifted again. More mirrors rose from the floor, dozens, then hundreds, surrounding her in a maze of reflections. Each one showed her in a different form: a beggar with hollow cheeks, a tyrant with cold eyes, a frightened child crying in the dark, a queen clutching a crown of thorns. Every reflection stepped forward, peeling itself free from the glass. Now she was surrounded by an army of herself. Every fear, every mistake, every version she might have become. Her heart pounded, her legs weakened. The whispers became a roar. She fell to her knees. Maybe they are right. Maybe I am not strong enough. But then, from the silence of her soul, she remembered the temple. She remembered the fire that had not consumed her. She remembered the falcon of Ra lifting her toward the sky. Amara lifted her head. Shadow cells froze. "No," she whispered, voice trembling but steady. "You are not my truth. You are my fear, my doubt, my broken pieces. But I am more than you." The shadow Amara sneered. "And if we do not leave you," Amara placed her hand over her heart. The golden flame of Ra ignited beneath her palm, glowing through her skin. The light spread, pushing back the darkness. "I carry silence. I carry fire. And I carry the will to choose who I will become. You are part of me, but you do not own me." Her words rang through the chamber like a bell. The shadows screamed. The army of mirrors cracked. One by one, her reflections shattered into shards of light, dissolving into mist. The shadow Amara fought hardest, clinging to form, but at last she too splintered into 1,000 glittering pieces, vanishing into the void. The whispers fell silent. The chamber brightened, not with fire or sunlight, but with a soft silver glow, as though moonlight poured in from nowhere where the mirror had once stood. There was now a doorway carved of pale stone, lit from within. Beyond it, she sensed not fire or silence, but water, a deep, flowing current, ancient and eternal. Amara rose to her feet. She was exhausted, yet lighter, as though a weight she had carried all her life had been lifted before stepping through. She turned once more to the fading shadows and whispered, "I am not afraid of you anymore." And with that, she crossed into the next realm, where the waters of the Nile of the afterlife awaited. The pale stone doorway hummed with energy as Amara stepped through at once. The world shifted. Cool air swept across her skin, carrying the scent of river reeds and wet earth. She opened her eyes to find herself standing on the banks of a vast, moonlit river. The water stretched endlessly in both directions, glimmering like liquid silver beneath a sky thick with stars. It was not the Nile of the living world. This river was slower, deeper, heavier, still it carried not just water, but memories. The current whispered softly, and with each ripple, she heard faint voices, the sighs of those who had crossed before her, carried into eternity. At the shore, an old boat waited. Its wood was ancient, cracked but strong, bound together with a golden rope that glowed faintly. The oar rested inside. Yet no boatman appeared. Amara hesitated. Her trials had taught her already. Not everything could be trusted. Not every silence was safe. But something in the river called to her. It was not threatening. It was patient, eternal. She stepped into the boat. The moment her feet touched its surface, it drifted into the current, moving without her hand on the oar. The ride began slowly. The water was calm, smooth as glass. Amara sat, listening to the whispers that floated from the surface. They were not in any language she knew, yet she understood them. Fragments of lives, joys, regrets, promises never kept. One voice whispered, I wish I had loved more openly. Another sighed, I built great walls, but found myself alone inside them. Child's laughter echoed, then faded into silence. Amara closed her eyes, feeling each voice brush against her heart. Some brought sorrow, some warmth, some sharp pain, as though she was carrying the weight of countless souls with her. The river widened. Mist curled across its surface, pale and shifting, until shapes began to form. Faces. They rose from the water, not monstrous, but fragile, translucent. Some smiled at her, others wept. Some simply stared with hollow eyes. Amara's chest tightened. These were not enemies. These were echoes. Then one of the faces formed clearer than the rest. Her breath caught. It was her mother. The figures. Features shimmered in the mist. Not solid, not fully real, but unmistakable. Her mother's voice floated across the current, soft and aching. Amara, child of my heart, why did you leave me so soon? Tears stung Amara's eyes. She reached out, but her hand passed through the watery image. I didn't choose it, she whispered, voice breaking. I was taken. The reflection smiled faintly, sadness in her eyes. Asterisk, every soul is taken, by time, by fate, by the path written before them. But you walk where few dare tread. Amara's throat tightened. I don't know if I'm strong enough. The watery figure tilted her head. Strength is not found in stillness, but in surrender. Trust the current. Amara, let it carry what you cannot. And then, like mist dissolving in sunlight, the vision faded. Amara wept silently, the river rocking her gently. She wanted to cling to the vision, to hold on to her mother forever, but the water demanded release. The current whispered again, surrender, flow. The boat drifted onward. The further it went, the heavier the air grew. The river deepened to an impossible black, and for a moment, Amara feared it might swallow her whole. Then, without warning, the boat dissolved beneath her feet, vanishing into mist. She plunged into the water. Cold shock seized her body. But the river did not feel like drowning. It felt like sinking into memory itself. She opened her eyes beneath the surface and found herself surrounded by visions. She saw herself as a child, laughing in her father's arms. She saw the day of her death, the crowd mourning, the sky heavy with storm. She saw flashes of futures not yet lived, a throne of gold, a battlefield of fire, quiet garden where she walked alone in old age. The water was endless, carrying infinite versions of her life. Her lungs burned, panic rose, but she remembered her mother's words. Trust the current, she exhaled, surrendering to the river. Instead of pain, warmth flooded her chest. The water filled her like breath itself, and she realized the Nile was not trying to drown her. It was teaching her to release control, to trust what lay beyond. Her body grew lighter. She no longer sank, no longer rose. She simply drifted, part of the current. Then, ahead, a light shimmered. A doorway, glowing gold beneath the river's surface, called to her. Amara let the current carry her toward it. The moment she touched its frame, the river released her, lifting her out of the water. She gasped, finding herself once again on dry stone, her body dry, her heart steady. Behind her, the Nile flowed endlessly, unchanged, eternal. Ahead, the golden doorway opened onto a staircase that seemed to climb into the very stars. Amara looked up, feeling her soul stir with awe and fear. The next trial was written in the heavens. The desert winds had grown still. The sky river that once carried Amara upon the solar boat had slowed to a gentle shimmer, fading into mist. Slowly, she stepped forward, guided by a light that flickered like a candle within the vast silence. Ahead stood a hall unlike any she had seen before. Its pillars were taller than palm trees, each carved from polished alabaster that glowed with the softest golden light. Along the walls were painted endless feathers, white, delicate, floating as though caught in an eternal breeze. Amara's breath deepened. Her heart did not race with fear, but swelled with curiosity. She had read, once, of this place, the Hall of Met. It was said that every soul must pass here, where the weight of one's heart was measured against the sacred feather of truth. Yet tonight, this was no trial of judgment. Tonight, the hall shimmered like a dream sanctuary, designed not to condemn, but to comfort. At the far end of the hall, a great scale rested upon a pedestal. One side was empty, the other cradled a single, perfect feather, glowing with pure light. Its brilliance was soft, not blinding, like moonlight caught upon still water. And then, from the shadows between the columns, a figure emerged. She was tall, graceful, draped in robes of white linen. Upon her head rested a crown of a single ostrich feather, and her eyes held the calm of eternity. Her presence was neither cold nor stern, but gentle, like the quiet voice of a mother singing her child to sleep. "I am Manat," she said, her words flowing like ripples in the Nile, "the keeper of balance, of truth, of harmony. And you, dreamer, have walked far to reach this hall." Amara bowed her head, feeling warmth and safety in the goddess's gaze. "Why have I come here?" she whispered. Matt smiled, "'Cause all journeys, even in dreams, must find balance. You have seen wonders, braved shadows, heard whispers of gods. Put within you, Amara, the heart still searches for peace." At her gesture, the scales shimmered brighter. "Come closer," Matt invited. Amara stepped forward, her bare feet gliding over the smooth alabaster floor. When she reached the scale, she felt her chest grow light, as though something within her wished to rise and be set free. "Your heart," Matt said gently, "is not a burden. It is a flame. Place it upon the scales of eternity, and you shall see." At first, Amara hesitated, but then, in the dreamlike way of this realm, she felt her heart lift from her chest, not with pain, but with tenderness. It glowed softly in her hands, warm and steady, like a golden lantern. She placed it upon the scale. The balance tipped, then stilled. For one moment, the heart weighed heavy. And then, to her amazement, it grew lighter and lighter until it floated gently, perfectly balanced with the feather of truth. The hall filled with music's soft, wordless, endless. Feathers painted upon the walls seemed to lift and sway as though stirred by an invisible breeze. Light poured from the ceiling like dawn, wrapping Amara in warmth. Matt's eyes glimmered with approval. "Do you see?" she whispered. "Your soul does not cling to the heaviness of the world. You are lighter than sorrow, brighter than doubt. Your heart carries dreams, and dreams, my child, are weightless." Amara felt tears shimmer at her eyes, not of sadness, but of release. A deep calm washed over her, unlike anything she had felt before. The goddess reached out, brushing her cheek with a hand that felt like cool wind from the Nile. "Go now," Matt said softly. "The balance is yours. Let it guide you, even when the night is long. Rest, knowing that truth is not a burden, but a feather upon the wind." As the hall faded, the music lingered. Amara felt herself floating once more, light as the feather itself, carried into deeper dreams where nothing could disturb her rest. The world, the scales, the goddess all dissolved into a vast, endless, quiets so profound, so embracing, that she surrendered completely to slumber. The silence of the Hall of Mat faded like the last note of a lullaby. Amara floated onward, her body lighter than air, her heart soft and free as the feather of truth. The world around her blurred into a canvas of shifting colors: gold, silver, indigo, and soft desert rose. When the shapes settled, she found herself standing at the edge of a vast oasis, hidden deep in the dreamscape of Egypt. The air was cool, scented with lotus blossoms. The water stretched wide and still, reflecting the sky above like a perfect mirror. Palm trees swayed gently, their fronds whispering to the breeze. Fireflies shimmered across the surface, glowing softly like stars fallen from the heavens. But it was not an ordinary oasis. This was a place where dreams gathered to rest. Amara could see it clearly, now ripples forming across the water, each carrying the soft outline of someone's dream. A child's laughter floated upon the waves. A traveler's longing became a silver ripple. A case's prayer glowed like a lantern, sailing gently across the mirrored surface. Amara stepped closer to the water, mesmerized. For the first time, she felt as though she was standing not only within her own dream, but within the dreams of countless other souls from across time, sleeping, resting, drifting. It was then that a figure emerged from the shadows of the PSA palms. He was tall and cloaked in black linen, his presence both powerful and calm. His head was the shape of a jackal, sleek and noble, yet his eyes glowed with kindness, care. Amara knew at once who stood before her: Anubis, the guardian of the passage between worlds. Asterisk, instead of dread, she felt a quiet comfort. His voice, when it came, was like a low drum beat, steady and soothing, carrying through the oasis like a heartbeat within the earth. "Do not fear," he said, stepping forward. "I am no shadow to you, dreamer. I am the guide of the resting, the protector of those who journey in slumber. Tonight, I watch over you." Amara bowed her head, though her spirit felt lighter, calmer under his gaze. "I thought you guided the souls of the dead," she whispered. Anubis inclined his head, the golden light of the oasis glinting upon his crown. "Yes, but dreams too are small journeys into the unknown. In them, the soul wanders, searching for meaning, for peace. And so, I guard this place, the oasis of dreams, where wanderers pause, and rest is kept safe." His words soothed her like water over warm sand. He gestured to the mirrored lake. "Kneel, Amara, and let your reflection show you what lies beneath your wandering." She obeyed, kneeling at the water's edge. At first, she saw only her own reflection, rippling softly in the glow of the lotus lanterns. But then the surface shifted. She saw herself as a child, gazing up at the stars with wonder. She saw her older self, sitting beneath a tree, whispering to the wind as if it might answer. She saw every version of her soul, fearful, hopeful, weary, dreaming woven into one long thread of being. The water glowed brighter, as though whispering back to her, "You are whole. You are never alone." Amara's chest filled with warmth, and she felt as though invisible arms had wrapped around her. Anubis stepped beside her, his great hand resting upon her shoulder. "Balance, truth, and rest, you have carried them well. Your journey is not of fear, but of remembrance. Remember, dreamer, that peace is always within reach, as close as this water, as close as your breath." Amara exhaled deeply, her body softening, her heart surrendering to stillness. The ripples upon the lake stilled with her breath until the world became silent once more. She turned her gaze to the guardian. "And when I wake," she asked softly. Anubis's eyes glowed with a calm, golden fire. "Then you will carry this oasis within you. Close your eyes, and you shall find it waiting. A sanctuary no one can take from you." With those words, his form began to fade, dissolving into the starlight like a shadow returning home. Yet his presence lingered, warm and protective, as though he still watched from unseen places. Amara lay down upon the soft grass at the edge of the oasis. The ground was cool, the breeze gentle, the music of unseen flutes drifting through the air. Above her, stars shimmered, mirrored perfectly in the lake beside her. Her body grew heavy, safe, warm. Her mind floated free, carried upon the waves of the dream oasis. And so, wrapped in the guardian's blessing, Amara closed her eyes and surrendered once more to sleep, this time deeper, safer, softer than ever before. Asterisk, the night was nearly endless, yet Amara felt no fear of time. In the dream realm, hours were like grains of sand in the deserts, slipping, shifting, infinite. She walked now upon a path of pure light, its surface shimmering like golden dust carried on the wind. All around her, the air was silent, vast, endless. But ahead, something glowed. It was not the moon, or the stars, nor the fiery brilliance of Ra's solar boat. It was a doorway. It's an arch carved from stone so ancient it seemed older than the desert itself. Upon its surface, hieroglyphs shimmered in soft blue flame, shifting and rearranging like living beings. They whispered as she drew near. Asterisk, this is the horizon of eternal dawn. The whispers breathed. Only those who have walked every dream, faced every shadow, listened to every silence, may step beyond it. Amara's heart stirred, yet remained calm, for she felt that all the trials, all the wonders, all the gentle mysteries she had wandered through had been leading her here. At the base of the gateway stood figures waiting in quiet stillness. She recognized them, the goddess of the Nile who had once cradled her, the falcon-headed guardian from the temple, the silent scribes of the underworld, the scarab that carried Ra's light, even the stars themselves, shimmering in the shape of beings. Asterisk, they stood as one, forming a circle around her. Their eyes glowed softly, not with command, but with welcome. A voice, deeper and more soothing than any she had ever heard, filled the space. It was as though the desert itself had spoken, or perhaps the first sunrise that had ever touched Egypt's sands. Amara, traveler, dreamer, child of earth, you have carried the breath of Egypt through shadow and light. You have seen the hid and the revealed, the mortal and the eternal. And now you stand at the horizon where night and dawn embrace. The gateway pulsed with warmth. Beyond it, she glimpsed something vast to see, of light rolling like waves, endless and gentle. Not harsh like the noon sun, but soft like the glow of dawn before the world awakens. Her body grew lighter, as though the weight of years, of earth, of every question she had ever carried was dissolving. She stepped closer. The guardians lowered their heads. The gateway brightened. The hieroglyphs spun in circles of glowing blue, and then aligned into one final shape. The eye of Horus, watching, protecting, as she crossed the threshold. The world dissolved into golden light, not blinding, not burning, just endless warmth. The river, the temples, the stars, the chants, the silence, everything she had seen flowed into her like a single heartbeat, slow and eternal. She was not apart from Egypt's secrets anymore. She was part of them. In that golden expanse, her breathing slowed. The hum of creation itself became her lullaby, and as the dream folded around her, she drifted not toward an ending, but into a dawn that never truly ended. The golden light of the horizon of eternal dawn did not fade it, simply softened, it wrapped Amara in a glow as tender as a mother's embrace, as patient as the Nile's flowing waters. For a long while, she drifted in that stillness. There was no sense of time, no need for thought, just the endless, comforting rhythm of silence. Each heartbeat was like a ripple across the surface of a calm river. Each breath carried her deeper into serenity, and then, slowly, voices began to hum around her. Not loud, not insistent, just a gentle chorus. They were not the voices of gods or guardians now. They were the voices of the land itself. The desert winds sighed softly, telling her of dunes that had stood for thousands of years. The Nile whispered, its waters gliding like silk, telling her of harvests, of boats, of life carried in its stream. The stars above murmured their ancient secrets, their glow a promise that night was never empty, never without wonder. Amara felt herself walking again, Though her steps were weightless, she wandered along the riverbank in a dream. The sand cool beneath her feet, its papyrus reed swayed, brushing against her fingertips. In the distance, the temples rose not as ruins, not as monuments, but alive and whole, glowing in the light of dawn. She paused before them, remembering the temple where she first heard whispers of forgotten gods, the corridors where torches lit themselves as she passed, the chamber of silence where she had listened to eternity, the underworld garden where flowers bloomed without end. Every place she had traveled lingered in her memory, not sharp, not heavy, but soft, as though her heart had stitched them into a single tapestry of wonder. And she realized this was never a journey of danger. It was a journey of remembrance, of learning that the mysteries of Egypt were not locked away, not lost. They were living, breathing, carried in every grain of sand, every ripple of water, every flicker of starlight. As she continued, the path became softer, as though woven of clouds. Her steps grew slower, each one easing her into a deeper calm. The guardians she had met along the way appeared once more, not to test her, but to watch over her. The falcon-headed figure, its wings folded gracefully, the goddess of the Nile, her smile serene, the scribes with their quiet eyes, no longer writing, but simply resting. They stood at the edges of her path, one by one. They bowed their heads, not in farewell, no, in blessing. For Amara understood now, this was not goodbye. The dream would always remain, waiting for her return whenever she closed her eyes. Egypt's secrets did not vanish with waking, they simply grew quieter. Like the hush before dawn, a soft wind carried her forward. The golden glow dimmed, not into darkness, but into a gentle twilight. The air was cool, soothing. The river's lullaby followed her, its rhythm steady, guiding her breathing. Her eyelids grew heavy. The world slowed. The last thing she saw was the horizon itself, stretched wide and infinite. And upon it, a single star pulsed brighter than the rest, as though winking at her, reminding her that the dream was not ending, it was only resting. She let out a final sigh, long and calm. Her body melted into stillness, and with that, Amara drifted into sleep deeper than any before. Carried by the eternal dreams of ancient Egypt, when Amara thought the journey had ended, the sands shifted once more, not harshly, not suddenly, like a curtain of silk being drawn aside. She opened her eyes and found herself upon a vast desert. But it was unlike any desert she had known. The dunes shimmered, not with heat, but with starlight. Each grain of sand caught the glow of the heavens above, sparkling as though the night had poured itself across the earth. The air was still, cool, and scented faintly with lotus and myrrh. And as Amara walked, her footsteps left no trace. It was as if the desert itself was holding her aloft, carrying her gently forward. In the distance rose shapes, not mountains, not pyramids, but colossal figures, carved of pure light. They stood in silence, guardians of dreams, older than memory, but their eyes glowed with the calm fire of stars, their hands folded in eternal patience. Amara did not feel small before them. She felt safe, protected. They did not speak with voices. No words were needed. Instead, their presence filled her heart with a single truth. There is no end to the journey of dreams. The desert shifted again. She found herself walking beside a caravan, not of traders, but of dreamers, children with wide eyes, mothers with gentle smiles, elders with faces carved by wisdom. All walked together, carrying no burdens, moving without haste. Their laughter was quiet, like bells in the distance. Their footsteps hummed with peace. One of the dreamers, a child with hair like golden straw, offered Amara a simple clay lamp. Its flame burned low, steady, warm. She held it, and in that moment she understood was not a lamp of fire, but of memory. Within its glow flickered every place she had seen, every guardian she had met, every secret Egypt had entrusted her with. The caravan faded into mist, but the lamp remained in her hands. Its glow guided her onward. Soon, she reached the heart of the desert, a lake of pure moonlight. It did not ripple, did not stir, though it seemed alive. She leaned closer, gazing into its depths. And there, she saw not her reflection, but the reflections of countless others. Dreamers who had walked this same path, seekers of wonder, wanderers of night. They smiled at her gently, their images floating upon the silver surface. Not ghosts, not shadows, companions of eternity. She realized she was not alone, and had never been. Every dream, every sleeper was connected in this boundless desert beyond time. The lamp in her hand grew brighter. The starlit sand hummed softly, as if in lullaby, and with each breath, Amara felt herself sinking not downward, but inward to a sleep within the sleep, a stillness deeper than any dream she had ever known. The guardians of light bowed once more. The caravan voices whispered one last blessing, and the moonlit lake glowed like a heartbeat, pulsing with eternal calm. Amara closed her eyes, and in that moment, she was carried further into the endless sands of dream, where time itself rested and all was peace. When Amara's eyes opened once more, the desert had changed. The starlit dunes stretched behind her like a memory, and ahead, in the vast silence, a single palm tree rose tall against the horizon. It was not ordinary. Its leaves shimmered as though spun from emerald glass, and its trunk glowed faintly with golden light. At its roots lay something wondrous, an oasis unlike any she had seen. The water was not blue, but liquid silver, reflecting the moon above as though it had captured the sky itself. Around the pool, flowers bloomed that had no names, blossoms of white fire, petals that glowed with the colors of dawn, and vines that whispered when the breeze passed. Amara stepped closer. Her reflection on the silver water did not show her as she was, but as she might become radiant, timeless, a traveler of endless dreams. She dipped her hand into the water. It was cool, but not wet smooth like silk. The ripples spread outward, and, as they did, the oasis revealed its secret. From the pool rose figures made of starlight, gentle spirits, guardians of forgotten journeys. They were neither men nor women, but something in between, cloaked in robes of shifting colors. Their voices were like wind through reeds, soft and eternal. "Welcome, dreamer," they whispered, their words flowing into her heart like music. "You have crossed the sands of time, and still you walk. Here, at the eternal oasis, you may drink of memory, or you may pass beyond it." Amara listened, her heart steady. She asked softly, "What lies beyond?" The spirit smiled. "Beyond lies silence, the deep sleep where no dream stirs and all is still. Yet, for those who are chosen, the journey never ends. They become keepers of stories, guardians of dreamers yet to come. Every dream you have walked, every vision you have seen, it is not only yours, it belongs to all who will sleep after you." Amara bent low and drank from the silver pool. The taste was unlike anything she had known, cooler than night, sweeter than honey, it carrying a depth that made her feel as though she were drinking time itself. The world shimmered around her. The oasis expanded. The palm tree grew taller, its branches reaching into the stars. The blossoms around the pool released their glow, sending trails of light across the desert. The sand transformed into crystal grains, each reflecting a tiny universe. And then came the vision. Amara saw Egypt not as a land, but as a spirit. She saw the Nile winding endlessly, not as water, but as a ribbon of dreams connecting every sleeper, every wanderer across ages. She saw pyramids, not of stone, but of light, rising high to touch the stars. She saw pharaohs walking alongside shepherds, queens alongside children, all equal in the dream's embrace. The spirits encircled her, their robes flowing like rivers of starlight. They sang not with voices, but with tones that seemed older than the desert, deeper than the sea. It was a song without beginning, without end, a lullaby of eternity. Amara closed her eyes and let the music fill her. She felt her heart beat slow, her breath deepen. Every part of her seemed to dissolve, not into nothingness, but into the great dream itself. When she opened her eyes again, the oasis was gone, but its gift remained. She carried its silver light within her chest, quiet flame that would never fade. The desert stretched ahead, vast and endless. But Amara was not afraid, for she knew wherever she walked, the eternal oasis would walk with her. And so she stepped forward once more into the sands of dream, with the guardian song echoing softly behind her. The desert seemed endless, yet Amara's steps were guided by something unseen. The silver flame within her chest pulsed softly, leading her forward, like a lantern in the dark. The sands whispered beneath her feet, carrying echoes of voices from long ago kings, queens, poets, and dreamers who had walked these same paths before. Then, on the horizon, a shape began to rise. At first, it seemed like a mirage, a trick of the night, but the closer she walked, the clearer it became. A temple, it towered from the desert floor, carved not from stone, but from the night itself. Its walls shimmered like obsidian, yet within them burned constellation stars embedded into the black surface, glowing as though the sky itself had been pulled down to form this sacred place. The entrance was vast, framed by pillars that seemed older than time. Each was engraved with hieroglyphs that shifted and moved, telling stories as she looked, tales of birth, of death, of love and loss, of dreams woven into the threads of eternity. Amara stepped inside. The air was cool, yet heavy, with a silence so complete it seemed alive. The temple stretched infinitely, its ceiling disappearing into darkness. Torches burned with pale blue flames, casting soft light across the vast hall. Shadows moved across the walls, not menacing, but watchful, as if ancient guardians still lingered. At the heart of the temple stood an altar. Upon it lay a single object, a golden mask. Its surface gleamed, shaped like the face of a serene dreamer. Its eyes were hollow, yet from within them flowed streams of starlight, spilling across the floor in rivers of silver. The mask radiated both power and peace, as though it carried the essence of all who had ever dreamed. Amara approached slowly. Each step echoed, yet the sound seemed to vanish before reaching the walls. When she reached the altar, she extended her hand, but before she could touch the mask, a voice filled the chamber. "Dreamer of the sands," it said, deep and resonant, as if the temple itself spoke. "You have wandered through visions, across deserts of memory and seas of starlight. You have touched the eternal oasis and carried its flame. Now you stand before the final choice." The mask's hollow eyes glowed brighter. "If you place this mask upon your face, you will pass beyond the veil. You will no longer dream for yourself alone. You will become a guided keeper of stories, a guardian for all who sleep beneath the stars. You will live not as one dreamer, but as the dream itself." Amara felt the weight of the moment. Her breath slowed in the silence, wrapped around her like a cloak. She thought of every vision she had seen, the desert spirits, the silver waters, the pyramids of light. She thought of the countless dreamers whose voices she had heard in whispers along the sand. Her heart did not tremble, instead pulsed with certainty. She lifted the mask. It was lighter than air, yet warmer than sunlight. With a deep breath, she placed it upon her face. The world shattered, then reformed. She was no longer herself. She was the desert, stretching infinite. She was the Nile, flowing forever. She was the stars, glowing above every sleeper. She was every dream that had ever been, every story whispered in the night, every sigh that left the lips of the weary. The temple dissolved into light. Around her, dreamers appeared, men, women, children, spirits floating like lanterns in the vast sky, their eyes closed, their hearts at rest, each wrapped in dreams. And she was with them all. She could guide them gently, soothe their fears, carried them into peace. The voice spoke again, softer now, like the last note of a lullaby. You are no longer Amara alone. Okay. You are the keeper of dreams. You walk with eternity, and eternity walks with you. The light dimmed, and she felt herself sinking slowly, gently as though being carried on a tide. She was weightless, timeless, her flame now endless. The sands of the desert whispered one last time. Sleep now, dream now, the night is eternal, and you are its song. The desert was no longer a desert. It was vast, endless, and yet soft as velvet. The winds had grown quiet, carrying only a hush like the gentle breath of the earth. The stars above seemed closer now, not distant flames, but lanterns hung low, glowing tenderly as though to light the way home. Amara, though, no longer just. Amara drifted through this infinite night. Her steps no longer pressed upon the sand. Instead, she floated, as though carried on unseen wings. The silver flame in her heart had dissolved into something greater, stretching outward until it touched every star, every dream, every soul who slept. The temple was gone. The voices of guardians had faded. There was no more trial, no more choice to be made, only stillness, only the vast comfort of belonging to something eternal. She looked around and saw dreamers countless dreamers resting in the folds of the night. Some lay upon golden dunes that shimmered like silk, others floated on rivers of starlight, while others still rested beneath great trees that glowed softly with memories of their lives. Each one was safe. Each one was held. And she was there, with them, not as a figure they could see, but as a presence that touched them gently, like a hand smoothing their brow, like a lullaby sung without words. For a moment, Amara thought of her old self, the wanderer, the seeker, the girl who once walked through fire and storm, through shadow and silence. But even those thoughts melted, slipping away like grains of sand through her fingers. She no longer needed to remember who she had been, or she was now woven into the greater dream. The sky deepened, the stars pulsed as though breathing with her, a slow rhythm, steady, calm, inhale, exhale, the same rhythm that cradled all dreamers, guiding them deeper and deeper into rest. The desert winds carried whispers, but not words, just sounds that soothed, like waves lapping on a shore, like leaves rustling in twilight air, like the distant hum of a song the universe had always been singing. And Amara surrendered to it fully. She closed her eyes, though she no longer needed them. She let herself drift, weightless, into the embrace of endless night. There was no fear here, no hunger, no longings, no shadows left to conquer, only peace. The sands whispered their final blessing. Sleep now, dreamer. The world is soft, the night is eternal, and you are safe. Amaran, the keeper of dreams, smiled within the stillness, and then she, too, let go, sinking into silence. The stars dimmed to embers, the winds hushed to a sigh, the desert folded in upon itself like a closing book, and all was quiet, perfectly, endlessly quiet. The desert was gone, the stars were gone, even time itself had loosened its grip. What remained was a boundless sea of quiet, deeper than any silence Amara had ever known. It was not empty, though no. This silence was alive. It shimmered like invisible music, a lullaby that did not need notes, a song that could only be felt. Amara floated, weightless, no longer flesh, no longer thought. She was breath. She was heartbeat. She was the slow rhythm of eternity itself. With every drift, she felt the world dim a little further, until even the faintest edges of memory softened into haze. Faces she once knew blurred into the silver mist. Voices faded into echoes. And even her name, Mamaro, became a ripple that gently sank into nothingness. She was not lost. She was free. Asterisk. The sea beneath her was not water, but dream itself, an endless expanse of shimmering softness, as though the sands of the desert had melted into waves of velvet light. Each wave carried her further, deeper, until she could no longer tell if she was moving at all, or if the dream itself was carrying her like a cradle. Above her, there was no sky, only an infinity of warmth, a hush that pressed close, like a blanket, drawn lovingly over a child. It whispered, not in words, but in feelings,